Welcome back to Breakthrough Conversations. My name is Brett English.
My name is Ryan Ortega.
And we've got Giles Roberts here from G Projects. He's a creative consultant who works on education, entertainment and experience. And thanks for coming down, brother.
Awesome.
I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Much gratitude.
Can you tell us about how you started G Projects and what was the driving force behind that?
Sure. So I was in Chile about 10 years ago, maybe 15 now. And I was working for a little media company there.
Yeah.
And they didn't really have a site to put out their media for, so I started doing it myself. And I was just like, what am I doing? I'm projecting what they're doing. I was like, well, I need a name for that. I'm kind of projecting, and then G is just kind of who I have been. Giles, Gino is my nickname, so G was kind of the essence of who I am, and so it became G Projects.
Nice.
Like projecting things. Yeah. And then it kind of evolved into working on different projects over time.
Yeah.
So the way I see it is that I jump on board a project and I G that project.
Yeah.
So I give it a bit of my G.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
So it's pretty broad,
Yeah,
it's pretty random, but it's taken me to some cool places and I've met very interesting people.
Yeah. What were you doing in Chile? You said you were working in Chile as well?
Yeah, so I've been to Chile twice. This was the first time, around 2010. And I originally went to film a documentary on a friend of mine called Tito. Who is an artist from Melbourne.
Okay,
who ended up living in Latin America, and he's a clown. And I can send you his stuff because he's
I'm keen.
Amazing. And so I went to film him with this idea. I was working here in events. And I was like, I want to do something creative. I was about 26 or whatever at the time, as I wanted to just leave. And so I went to Chile and went to film this guy's life over a period of a couple of years, and lived in a circus in Chile. And then all of a sudden kind of just got involved in that life, and funnily enough, the documentary became just something I was doing, and I was actually just living with this guy, filming his life.
That's cool.
Learning about a different way of living.
Yeah.
Rob was this guy who lived in a circus. He would get up at 5 a.m. every morning, go to a wealthy part of the city, do a traffic light show, make his money in the first hour of the day, and more money than most people would make.
What kind of money would you make in the first hour of the day?
So he was pretty smart. And Chile is an interesting place, and Rob is a tall, weird white guy from Melbourne. Yeah. So he looks different for a start. Okay. He then wears a big kind of like funny circus outfit, so then he stands out even more. Like being this gringo in Latin America. He then has a slack line that he stands on between traffic lights, so he's up high.
Holy shit.
And people can give you a donation of, say, $1 lucca, which is probably $2 in a note form.
Nice.
But that he would make maybe 60 lucas in an hour.
Wow.
And that's like $120 in an hour.
That's not bad.
For in a South American wage, which is like the equivalent probably of like $300-400 a day here.
That's actually quite good.
It's amazing in his first hour of the day. And then the rest of the day, he would come back, learn his craft, which is clowning and juggling, teach himself new skills, take workshops. And I was just like, wow, this guy's kind of
on the ball.
So that was an interesting start to G Projects.
Dude, is that documentary available for us to watch?
It's not, and I still actually have to edit it. But the funny thing is that this is what it became. It became. I've got lots of YouTube videos, and I can send you one. But it just became kind of more of me learning about simple living. And how if you just kind of you really can just do anything. And that was like it was funny, like I didn't really come out with a product from it, but I had a massive learning experience. Ended up working for other documentaries in Latin America and learned a lot about simple living, close living, community stuff. So an example of a first random project, I'd say. Tito.
Nice.
Wow, that's
and plenty
crazy.
more.
It sounds really cool. I actually would watch it. You know what I mean?
I can send you some snippets. I've got lots of snippets. And he now does. He's since moved to the south of Chile, where he's built his own kind of tiny space and does a lot of less street work, but more kind of like government and community work. So he's done really well as a clown. Foreign clown in another country. But I've definitely got some snippets. And I was on another documentary that like professionals filmed him, because I was just doing it with like phones and those little Canon cameras we used to have. This was before Instagram and things like that.
Wow.
So it probably should have been an Instagram story or but that was kind of the beginning of G Projects. So I'm still in touch with Rob.
That's awesome. Could you imagine that process of like leaving Melbourne and going to Chile to be a clown? Like, it's a big, like, it's a different.
Yeah, it's a big step, man.
Yeah. He's an interesting guy. I'll send you his stuff. It'll be exciting.
Pretty ballsy as well.
It is.
Yeah, it's very ballsy.
But look, if you find a niche where he's a tall, skinny, weird white guy, maybe if he was doing that in Melbourne, he'd still get there, but it would be a different. Whereas if you go to Chile, where you're completely different and random, and someone doesn't have that, they're like, wow, like.
It's like leverage, you know?
Yeah, and I see that a little bit here, maybe in Australia with actors or people doing some things. I'm like, there's a lot of you doing, and it's going to be really hard. Go to India, you know. There's a massive film scene in India. Go and be a random dude in India. You might get some, you know, you're different. Yeah. So being different, I guess. Finding a space where you are different.
I actually love that idea, man. With G Projects, it's been going for a while in Perth. What are some of the projects that you actually are gravitating towards or pulling in, types of styles and that sort of thing?
Sure. So at the moment, I'm working primarily for a youth-based organisation called Zero to Hero.
Yeah.
And my role is to come in and look at their programs. And we go into schools and we deliver, I guess it's mental health type content. So resilience, love yourself, compassion type projects. And my job is to come in, because they're written by psychologists and there's some great information there, but I guess delivering that to high school students, it needs to be a bit more fun maybe. So my job is to jump on those projects, spice them up, put a bit of that creative flair in, and then deliver them back to the schools in an entertaining way.
Cool.
And that's where film and kind of acting background comes into it. That's the main project, and that I'm working for them on a kind of part-time basis. So I kind of organise with each different project how I can be part of it and still have a bit of time to run what I'm doing as well. I teach surfing as well, which is pretty interesting.
That's cool, man.
Oh, that's cool. Interesting,
I was teaching for, again, a mental health service called Waves Wellness.
Nice.
And that is was in Scarborough, and we get up early and kind of run these mental health surfing groups. And that kind of falls under the group which I run called the Cappuccino Surfers.
Okay.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool,
a random group, which is kind of an idea which was to demystify surfing and make it a fun type thing. I don't know if you grew up in Australia. Surfing's this kind of tough blokey thing that you just get given a board and chucked out in the waves.
It's quite serious.
It's pretty serious.
Some of the guys at Trig Beach are pretty serious.
It's a bit rough, right? And so the Cappuccino Surfers was like, you had to be a bad surfer, like you couldn't be a good surfer to join.
I'm in.
Exactly. And the theme was like big waves, so small waves, big froth. So it was like having a cappuccino, and that's evolved into me coaching and it being more of a coaching service. But originally it was like a get together group. There's a great group called Club Shuckers that do an all-female surf group, and Cappuccino Surfers would just be the inclusive inclusive group.
Yeah.
Haven't done much with it at the moment just because I'm like, my projects are the one which need the most work, as in, and the ones I work on for other people are usually the way I put a lot of my more effort at the moment.
You've got a lot going on.
Yeah.
So what is it you wanted to do for yourself?
Good question. Thank you. So I think moving into that space of experience, like I don't know really what to call it. I guess it's like wellness, holistic
health,
holistic health. It's fairly new to me. I'd started to touch on it in Sydney when I was there a couple of years ago, and I went to a few cool things there, like Buddha Bar, castle drumming, and that kind of world.
Nice.
But I've really found, coming back to Perth, there's a really thriving scene here, and was involved in Liberators and lots of Frio type crews. Sean and those guys as well, and then how to use the skills from your past in your future. So I'm like, how can I use entertainment or my education stuff into this new type of work? So I've been going under the guise of social solutions, which is basically SOL for me, which I think there's something to do with belonging. And I don't know how to, like, everything I see in that kind of world comes back to being part of something, feeling like you're part of something. I know my own journey in kind of mental health and depression is that if I'm feeling like have a belonging, then I feel good. I don't know. And so I think
that makes sense.
Some way, and then also being able to use those skills. I've done a lot of work in music space and film space and art spaces, which are really great, but I also feel like they're spaces which revolve around a lot around alcohol and like hard working, like long hours.
Yeah. I know what you
And so it's great. I've had a great experience in the arts, but I think moving forward, I'd like to use those skills in retreats or in this kind of stuff, or producing goodness for people, like what you guys are doing. So
that's amazing, man.
It's awesome to connect in that level.
Yeah. You spend a lot of time coaching, obviously, the youth. Mental health is a big thing.
Yeah.
Well, what do you think is like a common themes that are occurring in the youth and people in general, as far as mental health and things like that?
Comparison, which is a huge problem. So having these, which is buzzing right now, is awesome. But this is the main. I'm a victim of it as well, but I also use it. It's a double-edged sword, isn't it? What I see in high schools is, and I didn't have the internet when I was it just came in when I was leaving school. I do a bit of a talk at this in high school, so I show them like an image of like our old computers, like the Commodore 64. I'm like, bloop, it takes 50 minutes to turn on. It's a green screen, dial up. You'd load a page and it would take, like an hour or whatever. And they're just looking at me like this. And we were like, and we thought back at school, we're like, we're going to have these contraptions in the future. Like we're going to have a big, that was what we thought. And now
from Star Trek?
And now they're here. We have them, which is cool. And we can do all this cool stuff. But also within social media, within the internet, teens, I think these days, you can compare now to not only like if you're in a village status or in a small school or a small town, you're comparing yourself to your peers, and then there's maybe a healthy level of challenge and a healthy level of comparison. Whereas now you're comparing to
the rest of the world,
who are all putting their best moments up online, which maybe I think it's changing a bit now as well. People are becoming more truthful with online stuff, but it's all it's a production, What we put up can be edited, and so I think if you've grown up without that coming in, you can see quite clearly the difference between the two. If you've grown up with it, it's normal, so you don't necessarily see that it's produced. So I think comparison is huge. We're so connected but disconnected, especially during COVID. Obviously, it's been hard. People need people. People really want, and like I said for myself, connection, belonging. And then I think there's a lot of pressure on teens these days as well to perform. There's a lot of pressure to be great at everything. Like you'll look on and there's like a 21-year-old who's got heaps of Bitcoin and owns a car. And so how do you feel? You feel, if you don't have that. Again, comparison.
And kind of getting them to realize that their journey is their journey.
And then aspects of beauty and all that kind of stuff as well. Now that everyone's like, it's kind of normal to, and I use this example as well, like it's normal to put a picture of your bum online as a woman, kind of not normal, but that's but then if you talk, normal, if you talk to someone on a bus, you're a weirdo, So this is where the world's going, and so I get in there and go, hey guys, what do you think about this? And I know that's part of times changing, like for example, when the first car came in, people probably went, "Oh, car, we're going to stay with horse and cart," and and then all of a sudden horses go, and then you don't ever think about them again, like books or like whatever it is. But there are some things that we just got to be careful with, like where we're going and how to keep some of the old. It's a trip.
It is,
I feel sorry for teens actually these days. It's hard,
nowadays
man.
I think it's very interesting, like seeing how they're like growing up and what they're like exposed to. I guess we were kind of lucky because we were like kind of in between. So I think we didn't really get a proper access to the internet or like technology until maybe we were like 13 or 14. So it's like at that time you have your youth, you can go out, you can do your own stuff. You kind of like you can go out, you've gone outside, you play with your friends. So like you weren't like playing like Xbox or like getting lost in the digital world when you're really young.
We had a good 50-50 growing up, I feel.
What
year were you born?
I was born in 83, so 83. I think the internet at our school came in when I was 16, like year 11 or something like that. But then it wasn't really, I didn't have Facebook till I was like 25. I was like, I'm never getting any of that stuff. Now I'm all over it. The other thing is you can't do anything without someone as a teen filming you.
Exactly.
So we could fuck up, as younger people and make mistakes, but now it's always documented. So you can't would that stop you from doing stuff maybe, or do you do it because you are being filmed? Like it adds a a trip to it. And I do it myself, so I'm a 38-year-old now, so imagine what it's like for the teens, but
but doing like the holistic health side of stuff, so like stuff like that we did on Sunday.
Yeah, that was cool.
How do you like implement, or what differences do you find between that and like the stuff like that they tell you to teach or they ask you to teach to the students?
Yeah, cool. Okay, so in education type stuff. Yeah, so my journey into education was coming from a production film background and acting, and I was like, I want to go, and I was in advertising, and that was awesome for a while until I felt it didn't really serve me anymore, or I was advertising things I didn't believe in, or just getting majorly ripped off because you're just a kind of a player in a big game. And so when I came back to Perth, I was like, okay, I'm going to use those skills to teach acting skills, to teach that. And I went through the process of starting to become a high school teacher.
Yeah.
And then because I hadn't studied drama, I couldn't teach it. And so I was doing all this, and then they made me study like Irish literature to be able to, and I was just like, what is going on here? This is backwards. And so I
just want to perform.
Yeah, and I started working in, or teach performance. I started working in high schools as an EA, and I saw how much pressure the teachers are under and the students, and just thought like there's a lot of, I didn't really see maybe my space as a high school teacher. Like I thought I could be more effective as someone coming in from outside with a program. And there's lots of cool programs. You can be a facilitator or an educator, and I feel maybe have a bit more of an impact and be less of a disciplinarian, which I thought that's probably what I was going to end up doing.
And avoid that trap.
Hats off to the teachers, because they're doing some crazy like hours, and they're social workers, they're teachers, they're mental, like they have to do everything. And the schools are now spaces where you have to do all this stuff. Anyway, cut forward. So I found Zero to Hero and became a facilitator there. Their projects are actually quite forward thinking. They're quite cool. Maybe teen versions of what we might find in a workshop, like we were with Urge on the weekend. Maybe in a high school you won't see that as much just yet, but it's definitely coming in. Seems to be in the more wealthier high schools that they have like a wellness program. So I teach surfing for St Hilda's, and that's part of the wellness program.
Okay,
they're lucky because they've got the money to be able to afford people to come in. Like they do rites of passage, they do.
Oh wow.
But it's coming in, and even like there's schools who do like 5-minute mindfulness. Frio College, I worked in a rap room, which was like a rest and resilience room. So it's definitely starting to infiltrate.
Oh wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
What would be a good rite of passage for people leaving high school?
Well, that's a good question.
Leavers.
Yeah, well, that's it. We lack that in our societies, I think, and it's related to now getting a car and being able to drink alcohol, which are givens. They're not really something you've earned. It's not a huge responsibility. I think like going away to the bush, learning about our land and our culture from the Indigenous people who from here would be epic for a start. Learning how to be self-sufficient, learning how to have relationships with people, learning about yourself.
Mushrooms.
Honestly, this stuff you don't get taught in high school, right? How to change a tire in a car, like how to do a tax return, shit you might use in your life.
That's crazy, isn't it?
And there's some great programs that do that, Good Blokes Co here, Mankind Project. There are lots of programs, but they're not part of, because we live in dispersed communities and different cultures, we don't, maybe you would have got that originally in your Italian family by you taking over the local grocery business, or I don't know, if you're an Irish fisherman, maybe you joined that, when you were younger, but we kind of miss that. We're also individualistic, that there isn't a team of uncles who are going to take you away and separate you from your mum, or separate the men from the women. And but again, that's something I think that's coming in again. People are noticing that we need it, and it's important.
Definitely,
and big ups to the people who are doing it, because there's some people out there really doing some great stuff.
I think it's quite important, like especially like after you leave high school, because to be 100% honest with you, I think I learned more my first year out of high school than I did all my life in high school.
Massively.
Yeah, massively. That's like getting a job, doing your taxes, all those like little tidbits.
Failing at some stuff.
Yeah, failing at some stuff. Like the tenacity that it takes to actually go to work when you don't want to, you know, stuff like that. Shift work, all that kind of stuff. Like, if you want to get like a cert uni, they applying for all these things. Even to be honest, even something as simple as putting in a proper application. I feel like it's something that should be taught. You know what I mean? Like, we're not even taught how to like just fill out like an application properly. Like there was a I used to live with someone who just did not know how to fill out an application. I'm like, dude, that's like the most basic skill they should teach you.
Yeah,
it's like even it was wild. Like for me, like how I got my first jobs wasn't by like applying online. You know, like I printed out my resume, blah blah blah, and I actually went out and handed my resume to every single place that I wanted to get a job
in person.
Whereas some people used to say, "Oh no, I can't do a job." I'm like, bro, I'm like 17, 18.
Get out there,
just get out there, get your resume, and just go out there and do it.
Or meet some people.
Yeah. It's just something that we really, really needed.
Yeah. I think that break, like I think there's a lot of pressure at high school when you're that age that you have to decide what you want to do for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
So that you're making you decide what, like, particular thing you have to be rather than like what we learnt on Sunday, which is like, who do you want to be? Because what you're going to do is going to change, right? So, you know, that element, you might be, someone who fixes cars and you end up selling cars and you end up, you know, I feel like you always use part of your past in your future.
Yeah.
But if you're concentrating on who you want to be, not like what that particular, you know, box of, I'm going to be an accountant or an architect or whatever, then it's a bit easier to make the changes in life because nothing is like certain anymore. There's no jobs forever. Everyone's a brand. It's a very different world. So I think time out of school, after school, or during school to be able to like reflect on what you actually want to do, and then to know how do you know? Like, I'm nearly 40 and I'm kind of working it out now. You know.
So exactly. What happened with you and your journey that you sort of broke the mold of leaving advertising and going down a different path? Was there any like tools you used or any experiences that sort of hit you? Yeah. There's
a few different things. So I think the kind of pathway went like this. Like I left school here, went to France after high school. Worked there for a while. Came back.
Straight away.
Yeah, straight away, and it was that feeling as well of just having to.
What made you be like, I'm going to France? Like, roll of a dice?
I don't know. I just wanted to do something different. I enjoyed French at high school. I was good at languages. Like I sucked at maths, and I was like, what am I good at?
You can speak French?
Can speak French.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Voilà.
Hell yeah.
Bonjour. And then from there, I came back and studied and worked in like events and communications and things like that, and then went to Chile and. Worked on film, which I'd never done before. I just started making up, and then I went back to Sydney and went to TAFE, which I found to be much more hands-on than university, which I like. Film school at TAFE was probably where I should have gone straight away. But, and then from there, going through film school, realised that I was more of an in-person, performer, producer, director type person than a technical person. And so got into acting through that, and then acting I think was great. I started off with a really great idea of like, I'm just going to work for like all these great companies, like Greenpeace, and I did a whole bunch of kind of activism type ads, and then
a lot of commercials.
Okay, nice, like 10 years of commercials before influencers came in.
May as well look familiar. Maybe I've seen you.
Oh, no. The average white guy. Like, you need one white guy. No, that's me.
Perfect.
And so did that and it was good. And then influencers started to come in, and that's when that whole world was changing, and I went on a different path. But leaving, I think, that space, because it worked well, because I was able to do like a job a month or a job every 2 weeks and have enough money to work on music or community arts projects. Like I didn't have to go to a job every day. But then again, that lifestyle is hard because you never know when you're going to get your next pay packet. You got to really hustle for every job. And I was lucky because I was just average white guy. You needed one Indian guy, one white, one like blonde dude, one Asian female. I was always put together with this other Asian lady, and she's like, average white guy, and I was like, Asian lady, because they put us together.
That's so funny. Yeah. Wow, man.
But it got to a point where I was starting to take jobs for projects I didn't believe in, and I was the face of it. I'd see my face, I was like, it's not don't really, doesn't feel good anymore, you know?
Yeah.
It's different when you can really see it, externalize, like, well, shit. You know?
Yeah, it was there, and I'm on stuff, and still today I'm on things, some good, some bad. And so I kind of went, how can I use these skills? Went back to Chile to see. So it's like this guy I keep seeing every 10 years, and he's
like the guy who
he's like my guru. Yeah, he teaches me like
that clown. He's like,
and he was doing great community teaching and like his stuff, and so I got inspired by that again, and came back at the start of COVID here, and have been in kind of education.
That's awesome.
Okay, that's
and
pretty cool.
Entertainment a little bit since entertainment to pay the bills, because education takes so far. Yeah.
I'd love to talk to this clown in Chile. How I reckon.
Yeah, Tito, Rob Cartwright. I'll send you
Is he a bit
stuff.
of a guru? Like his way of thinking?
He's definitely very clever.
Yeah.
And has done a lot of ayahuasca, has done a lot of visioning before he became a clown.
Wow.
Like that was he was making jewelry, and I actually met him in Costa Rica a long time ago, and then re-linked up in Chile. He's a very interesting guy, and he just puts in like what Urge was talking about on the weekend, was just he just puts in like his pure love into things, and you can just tell, like, even if he'll put the same energy into teaching like kids in the dirt in Bolivia clowning as he will to like a big workshop in a big theatre or studio. It's the same energy, and like people just like his success comes from his intention.
Yeah, okay.
And it's always a great, and he's like just got a really good intention. I feel like just feeds off, you know.
Yeah.
But he's a clever guy.
You've had a lot to balance with all your different jobs and skills.
Yeah.
And that sort of thing, and like, is it hard to combine them all into one thing you're passionate about? Because your passion sort of moves quite quickly.
Yeah, this is the thing, and that's kind of where I came up with the creative consultant, because I love a lot of different things, and you know, entertainment, education, experience. So I could combine everything I felt almost into those three headings. And it has been difficult to go, like, you know, my dad's an architect and my mum's a school teacher. That's their identity. They're an architect. You design houses. Someone goes, "What do you do?" I'm like, "Well, I'm a creative."
You have a list.
The essence of what I do is being creative. I have a look at things and I go, okay, how can we, like, with someone, and I'm consulting with them, and I say, what is this project? Because I've done so many different jobs and different projects, there's patterns that start to come up within companies, within specific projects themselves, of how they work.
Nice.
And the pattern is pretty clear to me now as well, like why some things work and why some things don't. And it comes back to that energy that I was talking about, that Rob had taught me, and I'd seen that with you guys, and also with what Urge was talking about on the weekend. It's like, if you have this pure source from somewhere and you really believe in what you're doing, then everything else kind of comes in from that. And, you know, money will come, the right people will come to you, which is really hard, because you're told in society, okay, you've got to get the money, you've got to get the big jobs, you've got to do all that, but you've got to build it on a foundation of pure energy. Because if that's not there, then it just falls.
Well, where does that pure
wayside.
energy come from? Like, how do we will that forward? You know?
Good question. And maybe, like, this is what I want to learn more about. I think you guys probably know more than me here.
Like you're on the right path here, man.
I think it's just being really clear with what you can offer to yourself first, and then what you think you can offer out, and then just staying true to what that essence is. And I think that's the hardest part. Is like there's all more. It's like a minefield. Life. There's things getting sent to you all the time, and you're like, what really aligns with what I do? And you get better at it as you get older or more experienced. But I would love to learn more about this, and this is the path I'm on now. I think of learning, and I really love this. Perth's got so many cool things happening. It's it's mind blowing. Like, so I'm just like, excited.
I think because Sydney would be so busy and there's so many people, it'd be like there'd be a lot of stuff happening in Sydney as well. Yeah.
When you're consulting with someone and they have an idea, and you sort of have an idea, you have an idea of what ideas work and what ideas don't.
Sure.
And you can tell they're sort of lacking in their intention or whatever. Do you obviously turn that job down, or do you try to like coach them, or?
Yeah,
what's the obstacles you sort of find?
That's a really good question. I think often if it's something that I think I can help with for a start, I will be really honest and say, look, either I can use some of the skills I have, like my skills, or I can come in and present someone else who I think would be better at the job than me, and somehow try and work in a way of being part of it, if it's an event or whatever, or just be blatantly honest with the person and say, hey, look, I think what you might need is actually this, or a combination of these things, or the company. Most of the work I've had has come through people I know, or old connections who go, oh, do you kind of do that thing? And I go, sort of, but I can kind of make it up. But yeah, that would be the hardest part. And then because I'm just myself, to how much time I can put into something, or how much I can work. I reckon I can work on 9 projects
at a time.
That's about as many as I like.
Before your brain explodes.
Yeah, with different weightings. But the funny thing is that your own projects are the hardest ones to get to make them better. Like it's like a relationship. You can see someone else's faults, right? Someone else's shadows, because you live in it yourself. It's very hard to, and that's why you have relationships. That's why you do projects. That's why you do work, because you learn about it. And I'm the same. Like what I'm doing is like, I need a lot of. It's kind of sucking a lot, you know. But what I'm doing for other people is of a higher level. Again, it's something I'd love to get better at. Is how to be really quick. I worked for a company here called the Bullshift Factor. The Bullshift, and they're a conscious communication. Company. I did some consulting work for them, and they're awesome. And I've just been giving their book to everyone because I just feel like their book is like epic. They've just like worked out a step process of how to make. It could work for relationships, business, whatever you want, but it's just like how to communicate in a certain way that's really clear. And they've got like kind of like a dot point system to follow of how to get yourself up the curve, or they call it up the curve of just being clear about what you want, how you want to do it, and how you can help people and how you can't.
That's
and
cool.
So
are they like a marketing company, or they're a consulting company?
Yeah, they're consultants. They're conscious communication, and they started. Interesting how COVID has really changed a lot of people's business. Yeah, I've got one. I can give it to you.
Oh, nice.
Or I think it's online as well. So they were doing going into workplaces. Yeah. Kind of like there's a group here called the Experience Project as well. They go into workplaces and do like team building type stuff. Bullshift were doing conscious communication for the workplace, and then COVID hit and they couldn't go out. Damn it. So they're like, what do we do? Oh, let's put it all online, which is a clever idea, and create an online education project, which was actors doing kind of comedic situations around the office. And then it's cool. It's super cool. It's like entertaining. And I went in as a script writer for some of their.
That's cool, man.
And acting in it, and it was and then learned a lot about this stuff.
So are these videos, or are you actually doing live acting?
Yeah, they're videos. Well, it could be both, but for as a business model, it's way better because they can just sell. They can make one thing once and sell a subscription to it.
Oh, yeah.
And so people can buy the subscription, which is an awesome idea. And those videos live for 10 years or however long.
It's like skits.
Yeah, it's skits.
That's so cool, man.
And it's funny because they use comedy as their. That's why I liked what they were doing, because they were.
They did stand-up comedy a couple of times.
Yeah, I've seen.
Fun. How do I get in touch with that company? I'd love to
Sure, I
talk
can
to them and work with them.
I'll send you an email with all this stuff. But the guy's name is Andrew Horrobin. I think his background is he was doing like men's and women's groups a long time ago. Yeah. And I think he had a stand-up comedy show as well. I think he was the unmotivational speaker or the demotivational speaker.
Okay. Yeah,
you might have heard of it.
I've heard of that.
Yeah, and he used to go and just like do unmotivational speeches, which I think is like really funny. And then
sounds pretty funny actually. Yeah. It sounds hilarious. Yeah.
And then got into this stuff that he does now.
That's dope.
But you both would be great at it. You had a lot of experience in this. In this field.
Sounds awesome, dude.
They sometimes do little skits, so maybe they're worth checking out as well.
Yeah. We'll start making skits just for fun because I was just seriously like so bored with because sometimes when you do like all the spirituality work and the healing work, it's just like this is fucking boring.
Yeah. It needs some comedy, man. Yeah. I agree. And any ads I ever did in Sydney when a company had said, okay, we want to use comedy as our bridge or as our method or way of getting a concept across. I was like, that's so cool. Even if it's like a big dirty brand, they're like, we're going to use comedy because I just feel like it's clever, you know, like it's a clever way. People can have a laugh.
More memorable as well.
More memorable, and you can tell something in a funny way, and it can often be more impactful than a real serious.
I think with Socrates, it's like you want to tell someone the truth, make them laugh, you know. so that I don't get offended.
Short form as well. It's
Yeah.
like 30 seconds, and that's why you're seeing on like Instagram and TikTok and all this stuff. It's like quick comedy things are often the most.
60 seconds.
60 seconds, yeah.
Yeah.
Like
Bang,
get you
bang,
that
bang.
hit and then it's over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Comedy. It's the way to go.
That's crazy.
Hell yeah, man.
Were you down at the Frio?
Comedy Factory?
Yeah, it's got the dingo on the.
Yeah.
The Flower Club? Is it called the Flower Club?
Something like that. The Dingo Flower Club or the Dingo.
The Dingo Flower?
Yeah, Dingo Flower, yeah.
Yeah. Yes, I did my very first stand-up set there.
Cool.
Which was fucking awesome.
Yeah. I think I know one of the guys. There's a comedian called. What's his name? I'll have to send it through as well. But they came recently for part of Perth Comedy Fest, and I went to that.
Oh, really?
Space, and it was good. Yeah.
They were from over east, were they?
Yeah.
Okay.
Cameron James was one of them. Who was the other?
Luke Kidgel?
Luke Heggie.
Okay.
He's he's interesting. He like stays down the road from us.
There's so many comedians.
Yeah, it's epic. Yeah. It's cool.
Apparently there's like about 200 comedians that rotate just in Perth alone.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Most of them are all unpaid.
Yeah.
They just love it,
Well, what I would, as a creative consultant, what I would suggest to comedians, and they hate me when I say this, but is to start your own quiz show or bingo show or some kind of show that's yours, not as part of like a comedy night, because then you're one of 20 comedians and you don't really stand out. You don't hold the space for a start. Have an activity that's unrelated to your comedy. So, because then you can use that as your show.
Yeah.
So I do a night here called Disco Bingo, which is, it's stupid. It's just like bingo in a disco club, and it's an excuse to be idiots basically and play like kids games for adults who have been drinking. So it's kind of like funny, but then it gives me like substance to be able to run a comedic evening.
Yeah.
And I think like what is really, I mean, that's not pure stand-up comedy, because it's pure stand-up is
it's better. It's like, when you're on a date, you have an activity, so you don't, it's not too much focus.
Yeah.
So
you're not left on your own like, oh shit.
Yeah.
But what that does is and then you've got a service that you can charge for, because people like, arts, music, comedy, it's like the most important things, I think, for our society, but then no one wants to pay for it because it's not tangible, right? Oh, a guy just standing on stage, or a guy on the guitar. It's like, well, yeah, but if you're running a bingo night, and they're like, oh, bingo, like they get it. It's
tickets,
like, or a quiz show, and comedians will hate me when I say this, but then you've got a paid gig once a week, or once a, whatever you want to do it, once a month, once a fortnight, and then if you start getting like a profile around that, people would actually come and see you afterwards, as if you did your own
you get a good reputation
show.
Yeah.
One of our friends kind of did something similar, but he was like, it was his own show. That's where we were like last weekend.
Okay, who's that?
Yeah.
That was Hamad Chowdhury.
Hamad,
that was his first show.
Yeah, wicked.
Well, first event he created called Conscious Comedy.
Yeah.
Cool. Wicked.
Handpicked some of the best comics, and it was
wicked.
Really, really funny.
Yeah, it was.
Because I was going to ask you guys that, like, how do you? My thing now is like how to use those skills from kind of like and I noticed this the last time when I went to the comedy stuff in Frio, was that it still comes from the world of like smoking, drinking cigarettes, and kind of being angry about the world. That's kind of like the gen. Like comics are just like these. They're awesome, but they're like tortured artists who are angry at the world.
Hey, man. I remember my first stand-up gig at the comedy club in the city. One of the main comedians sits down next to me when we're chatting. He's like, "Yeah, us comedians are all dead inside."
And it's hilarious, but it's like, oh, poor, like for you, like how do we make better for you guys? And like you just said conscious comedy. Then I was like, how do you translate like some of these things into, and I think this is maybe the way of the future, and like where this experience stuff and where this whole movement is going is that like how do we change entertainment? And I think everything so revolves around alcohol in Australia, and I consume alcohol as well sometimes, but it's just like that's also what pays the bills a lot of the time, right? But it's like how do we take that stuff out and make it funny, like playing music at cafes in the morning, where it's coffee and not just booze, or like I feel like other parts of the world do that so well.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Well, Europe, or it's not uncommon to see more buskers, or Latin America. Things are happening at different times of the day, whereas Australia, I feel is a bit like sometimes it's like, okay, I mean, not always, but it's like you're going to see a band, it's always in a bar.
Generally, yeah.
You know, it's always related to alcohol.
Club or bar, yeah. That's very true.
Bar, yeah.
How do we get this stuff like comedy and the arts outside of alcoholic spaces?
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Which, I mean, and there's some great crews. You know, Sean's doing great stuff, Liberators. There's lots of cool crews doing it. I feel some of those spaces, I mean, we go to that kind of stuff because we exist in those worlds, right?
Yeah.
If you come from outside, you're like, oh, I don't know if I'll go to an ecstatic dance. That's a bit...
It's a bit weird, yeah.
It's a bit weird. And if you go, you might...
You'll love it,
yeah. You know, it's awesome.
But it's just
It's like, oh, I don't want to go there. It's not a pub,
I was in resistance for so long for ecstatic dance. I was like, no, I'm not going to go. It's weird, like strange, you know, all this kind of stuff. And then when I went there, I'm like, this is fucking
Everyone's
great.
really interesting as well, you know?
Yeah, they are, yeah.
Yeah, you meet some pretty cool people there as well.
So how to create that, like these old skills in new places. And I think there's definitely some cool movements doing that, but I'd be keen to be part of that so I could do some silly shit
Hell yeah.
not in a bar. But I love the bar as well, so it's like, what do you do?
That's awesome, bro. Yeah.
It's actually cool that you bring that up. I've never thought of that.
Yeah.
I've never thought about that. It's actually like every time when you go out to see like an artist or like a band or like any sort of like entertainment scene, there's always like alcohol involved.
It's because it makes the money.
Yeah,
And you look at it, even I went to the footy on Saturday night because the friends had a spare ticket. And it's like, oh, if free ticket to the footy, that's pretty cool. But then a pint of cider or whatever it was is $15. You drink 4 of those or 5 of those.
Yeah, with a plastic cup.
Yeah.
$15, come on now.
And it's like, this is madness, like the amount of money we spend on booze. And then people are like, oh, the fuel's gone up 5 cents. You're like, hang on a minute, but fuel's gone up 5 cents, but then we spend $15 or $17 on a pint of beer that gets drunk in one.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, it makes no sense.
It's crazy, yeah.
I mean, they actually make a lot of money off those kegs. So I'm pretty sure, like, when I used to work at a bar, I think a keg was like, between $480 to $550.
And people just pay it. Like people don't even think. It's like, just spend a couple $100. So like, it's just what you value in society or what people tell you. Oh, coffee's $7, we'll just buy it. And that's why it was like, I enjoyed about Sunday afternoon. It was like, that was the Sunday session, you know? It was like sitting in with some interesting people learning about our lives. Like that was really worth it, you know? I could have spent that on 4 pints of beer.
100%.
Which would have gone in an hour, you know? So.
Well, I think with winter as well, it's hard to find events to do as well because normally you're just like chilling at home or whatever. But in summer you can go to the beach and
there's a lot more outdoor stuff.
Yeah, but need to have more events will be awesome in the winter. So
100%.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Well, I think also like cool. People are pretty good at bending the rules, but there's certain restrictions in Australia around what you can and can't do with food. For example, if you want to be a food vendor down at the beach, then you've got to get a truck, and it's like $100,000 before you can even start.
Yeah, it's ridiculous
to do that. And then are people going to come? It rains, whatever. So we're going to make it easier for those cultures to arise. Like you want musicians at you in the morning, then create spaces that are easier for them to make money, or like loosen the laws a bit. If we want more of that kind of European, international vibe.
Yeah, because
we've got everything else. We've got the sunsets and
got the beaches, the beautiful waters. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it'd be very expensive to be like a food vendor because you'd have to pay for the van, the license, and all that stuff as well.
Those vans are so expensive as well.
Yeah.
And if you have the van, right, you buy $50,000 for an average trailer or van.
Yeah.
You actually can't make the food in that trailer.
No,
you need a commercial kitchen as well. I'm like, how many fucking bills do you want me to pay?
You need to pay like a whole bunch of licenses.
Yeah, I tried to do it with the juicing, and I had to get a commercial kitchen to get my licensing, which is a minimum of like 3 days a week and a certain amount of money. Then the van on top, I'm like, that's
crazy.
Already like for me, I'm out.
I guess it's just bending the rules, isn't it? Like as things change. I remember even Perth, like before we had small bars, like it was only large bars because the licensing for alcohols is so expensive that a small bar simply couldn't exist because they couldn't afford a license, right? And then over time it gets pushed through and what people want becomes a reality. So I think if you just start doing it and everything's, it's like nothing could actually, if you started a business 100% following the rules, you'd be broke before you began because it's impossible, right?
Yeah.
Depending on what you're doing. But if you bend, I think Australians are very good at bending the rules and just kind of making sure you kind of, you starting to use someone else's commercial kitchen, and then so you can actually be operating out of someone else's, you're renting their space in a truck, and then all of a sudden it's a donation system, or until it gets to a certain spot, people are we love this and we want it, and it just is okay or
Got
something.
to be street smart, don't you?
Yeah.
And you've got to be ballsy too. Like some of the moves.
Yeah, it's risk.
I made
it's risk taking.
like, well, if I get caught, I'm done. But how would you're not going to get caught?
Yeah.
Unless someone really wants to hurt you.
Someone's
really,
pissed off about you. And that's the thing. I think like we should have more incentive to stick behind small business, and that's part of what I do for people as well. I try and find grants or sponsors or community support. There's a whole bunch of different ways we can self-fund things now, because small business is what really keeps an economy running, because we pay proportionately the right amount of tax. When larger companies and multinationals are doing very well at hiding what they proportionately, right? So there should be more incentive, and I think also we're keeping things diverse as well. Otherwise, it's all just going to be Starbucks. It's all just going to be generic brands. Like I've seen it in Freo even. I think there's only 2 or 3 old restaurants left in Freo that aren't franchises, right? So, you know, like otherwise if they go, then it's just a franchise that's there, and you know, a certain feeling is lost because there's no longer a connection to it. Or someone's just working there, they don't care, or you know, so it's like, how do we keep supporting small business?
The last 2 years destroyed small businesses.
Exactly, it's been really hard during COVID
like
as well.
I remember when we went to Freo, it was just like so weird seeing like
everything
everything closed, just empty shops, and like this one's closing, that one's closing. Even when we went to, I think it was the city, so many of the shops had closed as well.
It's sad, eh?
Yeah, it was really sad because you can see that some of these people, like, especially like those food restaurants that when we came to Australia, which was like 10 to 11 years ago, they were there. You know, and they were there for like the whole time, 8 to 10 years, and then all of a sudden, the last 2 years, it just kind of disappeared. It was just so sad. You know, like how would we incentivize to get them restart that business? Like, you know, they would have lost so much money.
It's hard with like retail. Like you'll see like retail, if it's not a cafe or selling some other produce at the same time, it's hard to keep it or if it's not a big brand, because rents are so high and everything's online, right? You can just go like, I do that now even. I like buy stuff online because it's like I'm at work or whatever, I need to get something quick. I'm like, it's just easy rather than me taking an hour off after to go and find stuff. But how, like, I've noticed it in Subi as well. It's like there's life coming back in. It's usually the coffee shops that start. I think we've got a great coffee culture, food and beverage in Australia, like that kind of thing. So coffee's been really good. But how do we repurpose spaces, you know, that like have cheaper rents for, you know, small business or creatives who are running things like this, or, you know, so you can be in a shop front, and then keep our centres, because we've got this satellite mentality in Australia, especially Perth, where you just keep building out, having this mall culture, which just comes from the States and not really our culture, where we could be, you know, developing the spaces that need repurposing spaces. And now we've got the internet, we can. You know, there's some great like, what's they called? Space Market in Freo. They go around and find old offices and old buildings that are unused, and then offer those out to people who might have businesses that might suit those spaces. So with the internet, we can really. I mean, Airbnb. You saw Airbnb do that. So there's a lot of disruption in that world where we can, if we've got the internet, we can. The good things about the internet, we can. You know, anything's possible. So a small business can be good in that way as well, depending what you're selling.
So out of the projects you've done and the creative events that you've done, what have been the most impactful and moving that you've been a part of, and also a little bit out there or different?
Sure. I think probably one of the best things I did in the last 10 years was run a music group in Sydney. And it's something I haven't had much time to do here in Western Australia. It was called the BYO Social Club. And it was literally a jam group where we would play in small bars, cafes, restaurants, and it was like, bring your own. Like, it was like, bring your own instrument, and if you rock up, then, you know, the bar would help us out with a few beers and food or whatever. But it was kind of improvised.
Oh wow! So you don't practice. You just rock up.
Well, the idea was that we'd meet on Wednesday night, and everyone would bring. It was like a quick way to form a band. You know, if everyone brought 3 songs, and the idea was one cover, one original, and one jam song. If 3 people bring 3 songs, then you've got, you know, 4 3s are 12. You've got a set list.
Nice.
It never really worked out that way. It was always it was complete chaos.
Oh, really?
But it was interactive, and what I've noticed from projects, this is another thing where people can make the thing their own, or people identify with the thing. You know, look at Cold Nips, look at Liberators, any one of these bigger form kind of events where people find their own place within it, their own belonging. Then it's successful because they're part of it. You know, it's not a product which has been sold to them. They're part of the product. And so that's what BYO was. And then people could jump up where you'd have microphones flowing around. It was performance-based
as well.
Yeah, you just jump up and anyone could play. It wasn't like going to see a band. It was like you were part of the band.
That's cool, man.
Shakers and things. Yeah. So that was probably the most.
If you do that in Perth, man, let me know, eh?
Yeah, I'd love to get it going here. I'm a bit time poor.
Bring the didgeridoo.
Yeah.
Hey, I can't
bring some shakers.
But I'm pretty sure I can sing some 70s ballads. You know?
Yeah, it works well in small spaces,
Yeah.
I found, and it works well. And this is what I've noticed, the work I've done in bars as a consultant, is that when small bars are great, or small spaces are good because people meet each other, right? And so if you go out to a massive space, then if we're like having a drink over here or we're doing something over here and there's interesting looking people over there or some cute girls or some cool people, whatever, it's weird if I walk up to them and say, hey guys, like that's weird. In our culture, that's pretty weird. Especially, I think, maybe a little bit in Perth. So, but if you're bumping up to next to someone, it's like, boom, oh, sorry, oh, hey, oh, you're at the bar, it's really tiny.
Small,
Then you're like, hey, I'm Giles, oh, how you going? And then it's kind of funny, it feels a little bit more villagey.
Yeah.
And then if there's an experience that you're all part of together, like music or something funny happens or there's some kind of entertainment that connects everybody, then I think people have a great time and they remember being part of something.
True, yeah.
So small spaces, I mean, obviously hard during COVID, but maybe we can go back to that now.
Yeah.
I hope so, yeah.
Using that theory, I went to Japan, came in as an entertainment person for some bars in Japan that were in the snow, and it was largely
What were you doing? You were a singer, musician?
I was hired as a musician, but I'm not a very good musician.
Oh, really? Okay.
That would have been interesting.
Are you like the singer or you play the guitar?
I play guitar and sing a bit, but I'm not. I can play like 3 songs. That's it.
Okay, what are the songs?
Like La Bamba.
Wyclef,
like shaggy songs. I don't know, like silly stuff. But a friend got me in and was like, and then they realised, I think, when I got there that I could do other things. They're like, okay, you go and do something else. And I did a jam night, which actually ended up being the best night. But I figured there's often people have everything really good set up well, but they're just one element away from what can change the thing completely. And so that's when having someone else's idea can be really cool because they can see this tiny, it's like this is what's called the tipping point of a project where, for example, in this bar they had karaoke on a Monday night, Tuesday on trivia on a Tuesday, Wednesday night was a music night. They had all the nights, but they weren't really working. And so I came in and I looked at karaoke and I was like, okay, here's what we're going to do. Karaoke is now going to be kimono karaoke.
Kimono.
So I drove down to Nagano, sliding around in the snow, went and bought a whole bunch of kimonos from an old Japanese kimono store. That night at karaoke, everyone got a kimono. So you come into the bar and then you like, already there's a talking point because everyone's a bit silly. They're wearing a costume, right?
Yeah.
So then that gives me an excuse to talk to Brett because he's also wearing a kimono.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's like if you carry a guitar down the street, you can talk to someone just because they've got a guitar or a dog. You're allowed to talk to.
Opener.
It's like social allowance, right?
That's cool. That's really cool. I like that.
And then we could have it, and then everyone got a team name, like kids games. But then you start to form identities, and then people have excuses because people want to connect.
Yeah.
But you have to give them currency to do so.
100%.
And so that's how, that one little idea, and then the music night, instead of having just a guy playing guitar, it became interactive jam night.
Like song requests and stuff like that?
Or you could just get up,
that's
cool. But I wouldn't call it an open mic night because that conjures up a certain idea. Called it like open jam.
So they've got to be good. You'd be like, are you a singer? You want to come on?
You just have to be willing to get involved.
Yeah, true.
So there's small ideas that can kind of change how like a project is very close to something and it's working.
It's a bit of sauce, you know?
Yeah, a little bit of sauce, and that's I think what I what I can bring to.
That's really cool, man.
Yeah, maybe sometimes. If it works. You know?
Yeah.
If it's the right source.
Well, you've got to try it to see if it works, right?
Yeah, and if it does, and then you do more of it. You know, you just keep adapting. And
well, what's that one big vision you got in the back of your head that you sort of haven't put enough time into that you really want to push out? Is there a little golden nugget that you're working on?
Oh, I think it's to do with this kind of stuff, like something like I said, I want to move more into experience. I want to take the skills of entertainment and education, get them out of bars and schools and maybe into other places where we can learn, retreats or
retreat.
I don't know, like community centres or like you said before, Ryan, like it's like we need other places to learn things in life and somehow make that really fun and communal. And I think everyone's looking for belonging, connection, community, how to create more of that. That's definitely where I'm going. I haven't worked out how it's going to happen yet, but connecting with you guys is a start.
But given that you've traveled so much, I think like traveling, I would say like traveling is the best way to wrap your head around like human interaction and culture. You know, like when you interact with so many different people, so many different cultures, you have the ability to kind of understand people differently, I guess, because I think that when you're in a country where you don't even speak their language, you don't just pick up the like superficial stuff, like your brain's picking up like other like subconscious cues and, you know, like other little things. So like when you do bring all that knowledge into like your teaching and your experiences, it's going to be amazing. I feel like it'd be very powerful as well.
And we're lucky, like Australia is a mixture of so many different places, and we're taking like the best of all the good stuff. You know? Like the Italians arrive with the coffee and the Greeks with the olives, and we're getting all these great bits of everyone's cultures, and we can have the best of it, and that's what's cool about here. And you're 100% right. Like if you can pick things about the people you've met in your life, the places you've been, and put those into your future kind of vision. That's kind of what I feel like it is for me now, like landing back in Perth after leaving kind of 15 years ago. And then using some of the ideas that worked in other parts of the world here and being more like I'm here now. But just excited because I think there's so many, like, I'm just blown away by how many cool things there are in WA. So
many different avenues.
A bit ADD, so I'm like, oh, so many projects.
It'd be cool to have like a space, like even like the Vibe Hive. For example,
exactly.
Once a fortnight, everyone meets there who can just put on a performance. So if someone's got comedy, someone's got a band, or someone's got this, everyone can just sort of share in hosting for a night, which is awesome.
All those things.
Actually, I wanted to ask you, given that you've traveled so much, like, what is the main takeaway experiencing all these different cultures and different people?
Takeaway in terms of like what I've learned, or what's the thing that stayed with me the most? Oh, that's an awesome question. I think it's curiosity. Like keep being curious, and I think as I get older, I find myself, and that's what I talked a lot about on Sunday. What I was wanting to get out was like a negative thought pattern or a fixed mindset that we sometimes get into when we think we've come to a point where we can't get any more, or we're our own barrier, right, to our own stuff. And I think learning and part of learning, you know, part of traveling, part of experiencing new things and new cultures is you're always learning on seeing how people do different things, seeing how the design in Japan, seeing the kids' games in Cambodia. Like, you're constantly being curious. And if you can keep that curious state, which we all had as children, and we kind of lose as we get older because we get locked into, I need to do this, I need to have this. If you can break out and be curious, then every day is like magical, you know, because you're always learning. And if you translate that into what you do, the smartest people I know, I watch how they work, and they're just curious, and they're always asking questions, and it's very rarely about them. It's always about other people. Like, okay, how do I? And then because you're surrounded by magicians, you know, everyone is a PhD in something because everyone's had a completely unique experience. Maybe the key is to unlock everyone's possibilities and be curious to that, which is hard. Relationships, work, your own bullshit. It's hard to be curious, but being curious would be the one, I think.
Yeah, funny that you say that, because I think it's I'm not sure. Brendan something who wrote the book High Performance Habits, and he says like what these high performance always seek is clarity, and it's like one of the I think it's one of the top skills that
nice.
that they embody in order for them to become high performance. High performance
being
people,
clear. Yeah.
being clear. So they ask a whole bunch of questions.
Great.
And like try and attain as much clarity from like what they're trying to do.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So which is quite interesting. But like when you went to Japan, did you go by yourself?
Sort of. Yeah, I went by myself, but I met some friends over there who also, well, they were actual musicians. I was just like to tag along musician.
They're kind of a musician.
Yeah, kind of musician. But then met a whole bunch of people there, and it was really working with Australian audiences there because the Japanese knew that they didn't understand how, and their clients were Australian travellers. So we had some Japanese, some mostly Australian. I met a lot of people there. But I've done different versions of like travel on. I really enjoy going places with a project because then I feel like you've got a good reason to be there. You often meet the local people, and then if you can have time after your project to integrate or travel, then you already know people.
Yeah, the best way to go actually.
Yeah, and there's all different types. You can travel with a family or with a partner. I've done a little bit of everything, and but I really enjoy going somewhere with a purpose. Yeah. And I think you just have a different experience, purpose, and then having some free time afterwards to explore.
Yeah.
And I miss it. I haven't been out for a couple of years, so.
Itching.
Yeah. Where are you going to head to next? Have you got like an idea of a place you want to head to, or you want to sort of ground in Perth for a bit?
I love Perth, and I've got a bit of a pathway here now. I definitely feel like I haven't seen any of Africa, haven't been to the Middle East, Eastern Europe. There's lots of parts of Asia I still haven't been to. Yeah. My dad was born in the States, so I'd love to. I've only been to like certain parts of the States. I'd love to see inland, weird cultures in the United States as well.
Yeah.
But I always wanted to go to Reunion Island and Mauritius and those kind of places.
Yeah.
The Caribbean.
Maybe you need like a global project where you can take on tour,
Yeah. Well, you can if you get it all online. At the moment, I'm physical.
There's like travel shows. There's travel shows.
Yeah, that could be cool.
Yeah. There was comedian.
Traveling podcast.
I've seen some comedians, not the best comedians, but they're just amazing on social media and TikTok. These guys travel all around just doing their shows because the TikTok has blown up for them.
Yeah, exactly.
I got some comedians who are just in Perth who don't leave, who are amazing.
Yeah.
Like just work miracles in a dead crowd, but they're not famous. I'm like, how is this possible?
It's funny. Yeah, I look at that as well, and I think they're two very different things. I think one's like a produced thing to it, like an audience which you can then edit, obviously, and change around. But they're two different. Depending on what you enjoy. Like, do you enjoy more? I mean, I love. I mean, there's a guy, That's What I Reckon. Do you know the cooking show guy?
Yeah, dude,
he's a brilliant example of the online world too. If you're building up a really awesome following, and he's got a great, like, his stuff is, it started him just going out to like boat shows and like stupid pompous things, and he was just basically taking the piss out of it, and then all of a sudden he starts cooking because that's what he's good at. Like, he's a chef and he's a musician, so he just kind of worked on that, and now he'll sell out shows all around Australia, and he's got a book which you can, like, he's a clever
I remember his first cooking video just took off.
Yeah.
Like, it just went so viral. I was like, whoa. I think he had like 50,000 followers, over to 1 million, like essentially within a matter of a few weeks.
Having like that one or two things that you're really good at, like, and that's what I don't have, because I work on everyone else's things, which is my thing, which I enjoy. But if you have like, okay, I'm a Japanese fisher, then like that's my market. That's what I do. You know, like That's What I Reckon. He's like inner West Sydney, kind of like anarchist chef. That's like his vibe, and he's really good at it.
Strong vibe,
And he kept with us. Struthless is another guy, the inner West artist. He does like those cartoons and stuff. I don't know if you've seen him. He's really good as well.
What's his name?
Struthless, I think he's called online. Yeah, but I can't remember his actual name.
That's awesome, cartoons. I really wanted to make a cartoon, hey?
Check out Struthless, you'll dig his stuff. And same again, I saw him at art shows like 10 years ago. And he was just like an art school kid doing stuff, and then now he's just blown up. Like, and he's done some really great mental health work, and it's alternative, I think, because it comes from a place of just truthfulness again. Like, he's just done it because that's why it's expanded. But having one thing is good, which I I'm ADD. Like
Maybe you need to be the guy behind the guy. Like you curate the guy.
Yeah, and I feel I quite like that. You know, I love to work with different things. My thing is just putting energy into a thing because I'm fascinated by people.
Yeah.
You know, like I think you guys have probably got the same
same
thing. Hence the podcast. You know.
Yeah, I got one more question for you.
Mm-hmm.
A bit of a sidestep.
Yeah, sure.
Working in mental health, have you experienced much people with addiction, drugs, alcohol, things of that nature?
Not so much because I'm more in, I'd say, the PG realm of mental health. Like I'm not a social worker. I'm not like a support worker. I'm not a. I have friends who do that work, and I take my hat off to them. It's an amazing space, and there's some really great work being done there. I'm on the PG education
fair enough.
side of things.
So it's like high schoolers?
Yeah, high school and just making, I think, mental health content approachable for young people, which is good. But I don't deal with addiction and things like that.
Have you seen a kid and you're like, yeah, he's going to be one of those?
Well, they're incredible. Teens are, like you're saying, they're amazing. Like you meet teens these days. They're like, oh, my portfolio and bitcoins, like my NFTs are all through the roof. You're like, I'm like, okay. Cool. I think I was skateboarding when I was your age. Don't lose your youth though, you know.
Yeah, he's like 17 and he's got a bigger net worth than you are.
Yeah, probably. But it's like, man, you also got to like fuck up and like and make some mistakes and like travel and
I'm sure that will come.
Yeah,
those little punks.
But I'm interested in things like addiction and I guess we all have our own addictions. I think mine are like sugar and maybe pleasure. I think pleasure's a massive addiction for most people. So I'd be interested to learn more about it.
What are some of the biggest obstacles you face when it comes to performing and acting and just putting yourself out there in the world so radically?
Your own self, like that, and that's what I was like interested in on Sunday. I think we're all our own barrier to like endless potential, and if you can start to, I'm new to this as well. It's something I don't know much about, and I'd love to learn more. Like if you can really crack into mindsets that are completely open, then literally anything is possible. And it's I mean that sounds like pretty out there, but
it's true.
If you believe it's true, then it's true for you.
Yeah.
And we're learning a lot about like neuroscience, like what you create in your mind is what is going to be external to you as well. And so I do a lot of stuff in the high schools about like we visualize things. I do like the negative fox and the positive fox, you know, like the one you feed is the one that will grow. Your brain doesn't know the difference between bad and good. It just is. Yeah. Everything just is.
So that's a bit of a trip for me too on the healing journey, right? The more you sort of look for limiting beliefs and things to heal and traumas, are you just like putting a spotlight on creating? Because sometimes I feel like I'm doing that because I'm like, I swear, I didn't have these problems 6 months ago. You know what I mean? Like, I was doing all right. Now I'm fucked to like.
And that's where the comedy will come in. And I think that's where that conscious comedy and that could be the beauty of it, because you can't take any of this stuff too seriously. Like you've got to put it in a box and say like, you could go down the rabbit hole of learning about yourself. You will. We all do for the rest of our lives. But you got to be able to step out of it and go, okay, you know, like, I'm doing all right as well, and everyone goes through shit, and like, I do the same. So I'm like, another book about like this all and that. And you got to look at it from a perspective.
What I found the most effective is before I used to go on stage, I used to be so terrified, anxious, all this kind of stuff, and I would dwell on it and like all this sort of stuff. But I would find a way to hit a certain switch in my mind, where the anxiety would go away, and I'm like, I'm fucking ready to get on the stage. But it would always creep back in. And I was like, I don't want to focus on that anxious feeling because it just perpetuates it and gets it bigger and bigger and bigger.
Sure.
I want to focus on that little tweak without having this whole process of going back to your parents and past lives and whatever else. It's like, I just want to turn on and perform. Like,
100%.
But someone out there has to know how to do this, like Tony Robbins and things like that.
Oh yeah, dude, Tony Robbins is EG, of course he does.
Sorry, go on.
No, do you have things like that you can sort of switch on when you're about to perform or when you're about to go into a big meeting and you're anxious? How do you turn that on?
There's different. I think in the acting world, and I never studied acting. I just did.
You just did it.
Jobs, like that's how I was like. Well, if I want to be a director, I need to be directed, and then end up there acting from there. And you could go to acting schools, and they're all very expensive. And I thought, well, how about I just go and do some acting? Yeah. And there are lots of different. The Meisner technique, all these famous, the Chai, whatever his name is, amazing people have got with cool techniques. I think with all this stuff and anything in life, there's going to be something unique about you that no one else has, and you got to remember that you have something completely different. There's no one else like you. So whatever you're bringing out there it's going to be different. If you're trying to replicate someone else, it's not going to work. If you're trying to please someone, it's not going to work. If you're doing like uniquely what is your thing, then it's going to come out purely, you know. In terms of like maybe preparing for that, maybe not drinking coffee.
True. Yeah.
Having something to eat. Like I think before we do we speak sometimes in front of thousands of teens, and I find it easy to speak to teens. I would be horrified to speak in front of my contemporaries. Like,
oh really?
Lots of people our age, I would freak out. But teens, for some reason, I just.
It's your thing.
I like their vibe. Yeah, I get them. But yeah, I always make sure I've had something to eat, that I haven't had a coffee because I get anxious from coffee. And yeah, there's visualization techniques you can do. You can make yourself bigger. There's all that stuff. I think just like literally walking straight out there and not
Like the cold plunge is fucking.
Yeah, cold plunge and not thinking about it. There's the Michael Jordan documentary, what's The Last Dance? Like I really was fascinated by his mindset and how good he got at doing something. And he just never, somehow when he got in the basketball court, was able just to live completely in the moment. And it's so cliche, but it's so true. Without thinking about what's happened before or what's going to happen, then you don't have any barrier, because it's only the present moments. That's why he hits so many shots.
It's like the Buddha, you know. It's just like meditation.
Because the reason he's not thinking about, I've missed this before, it might go in. He's not thinking, in the past I've done it better. He's just like, let's see what happens. Let's see what happens. Let's see what happens. And if you can replay that,
it's amazing. Yeah.
But I don't know. I think just doing it.
Yeah, just
going out there. It sounds like pretty crap advice.
Apparently, only slept like 4 hours a night.
Yeah. Wow. Crazy.
Really?
Yeah, dude.
Just
which is even more impressive.
That's insane. If I get like 6 hours, I'm like grumpy as hell. Yeah. It could be a limiting belief.
Yeah. Apparently, he used to have he had a crazy gambling problem, and he used to go out and just like gamble and just like chill with the mates.
Yeah.
And he pretty much as soon as he finishes, he goes home. I'm pretty sure he's like sleeps for like 3 or 4 hours, wakes up, goes to practice, finishes practice, does whatever he needs to do, does his game, does the same thing all over again.
Wow. Yeah, so he's in a routine.
Yeah, he had this routine. And he was like it still blows my mind that he probably is the greatest basketball player in the world.
Yeah, I think so.
Probably is. He is up there.
He's reckon better than LeBron James?
Yeah.
I think he is.
Yeah.
He's got more charisma.
Yeah.
That's true.
It's a big gold earring, man. It's like
yeah.
The big 80s jackets, like 90s jackets. Yeah.
You can't beat the 90s.
Yeah, you can't.
It's a particular style.
But then has made 9 finals appearances.
Yeah.
All his stats technically.
Yeah.
He says that he would be better than Jordan, but then again, Jordan has 6 rings.
Jordan's got panache, man. He's got that X factor.
Yeah. Damn, I got to focus more on Michael Jordan and figures like that.
Yeah, Michael Jordan was a beast. So was Kobe.
Yeah.
Yeah, Kobe had a similar mindset to Michael Jordan. His mindset was phenomenal. Like I've just watched like a couple of his podcasts. Yeah, and like his work ethic. Apparently, before every game he'd go shoot 100 free throws.
Wow. And just get into
the zone. Before every game, he shoot 100 free throws.
Yeah.
And he used to outwork everyone. I guess that's why he's definitely like one of the best as well. But their mindset, like for the top, I'd probably say the top elite basketball players except Shaq, is insane.
Except Shaq. Oh man.
Shaq's had a cool name as well.
Shaq's had a cool name, but
Shaquille O'Neal,
dude. The guy, he's hilarious. But he's like, I think he was really good. He's still like easily top 10, but like his work ethic wasn't as good as Kobe's. Like Kobe used to give him shit because his work ethic wasn't as good.
It's part of his vibe, man. He's doing really good now. Like,
yeah, but that's true. That's true. And it's like it surprises me when you see like some of these like super duper elite athletes, like if they have like a really shit diet, really terrible sleeping habits, or they just do really random shit. Like I'm just like, how are you one of like the best athletes in the world, but your diet is a cup of coffee, candy, and like one meal in the middle of the day.
What about some of these rock stars, man?
Yeah,
you know, like go on stage and send like a 5-hour show and they're just like drunk or like on coke or whatever.
But it's like that's
inner willpower, you know.
That's willpower. But I don't know. I think like if you're a rock star, it's not like physically demanding. You know what
I
I
reckon
mean?
it's physically demanding, man.
Compared to
I find that, or not maybe like basketball.
Or like basketball, yeah. Or like soccer, like Ronaldinho. You know, Ronaldinho apparently used to rock up to practice drunk.
Really? Yeah. That's insane.
How wild is that? And then you see like other like top tier athletes like Cristiano Ronaldo. Who was another one? Cristiano Ronaldo, Stephen Curry, LeBron James, who have like everything is so pristine like in their life. Like the sleeping habits, they sleep in a
that
sleep
would suck
chamber.
as well. You know, you'd go, you'd
go
like,
crazy. Yeah. Every single word that they say is like held to such a high esteem, so they've got to hold themselves. But I still find it quite impressive because like
it's amazing.
It's like these people. At least I think that they're like at their highest form. That's their purpose. You know, like they've been put
in
on
the
this
flow.
earth. Yeah, they're in flow state. There's no way you cannot be in flow state and be like such an elite performer. And it goes so much so to like, you could go into like other things. Like if you look at someone like who Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, and people like that. There's no way these people wouldn't be there if they did not have like a really insane ability to stay in the present and to be in a flow state all the time.
Totally agree.
You know, it's crazy. Just for me, it's kind of like how do they tap into that flow state so consistently? All the time and like perform so at such a high level all the time.
Good question. That's what we're going to find out.
Practice. Practice.
Yeah.
I think we'll pretty leave it there. It's like an hour and a half.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Wow. Was that really?
So much,
That was a good
thanks
flow.
so
It was
much,
great to
dude.
have a chat. Thanks for having me.
No worries at all, man. Such a pleasure.